Babe, vacations are exhausting. We have this idea, oh, we're gonna go away and do this thing. I need a vacation from my vacation.
What does it look like for men, for someone in a leadership role, to rest in a healthy way in order to come back primed and ready to lead their team, lead their family, or quite frankly, lead themselves?
Well, I think it's a really important question and is more of a question that each man needs to live as an experiment initially, because we all get replenished by different things. And usually what happens is that I've always had an illusion that like a vacation is restful. And, my wife, she's so intuitive and so in tune with how things really are and able to see through so much of the collective conditioning. So she's like, babe, vacations are exhausting. We have this idea, oh, we're gonna go away and do this thing. And then it's just like the travel and the logistics and not having the home bed and not having the schedule and eating out and all this kind of stuff. It's like, and I think there's like that joke, I need a vacation from my vacation. I need a vacation after my vacation to actually rest because I'm so tired. But what did I do? Oh, like sipping martinis or margaritas on the beach, or going out to dinner and all this kind of stuff, and it's not actually restful. And I think that there's a really important distinction between coping and resourcing, which I've recently been kind of shown by my own life experience. I can think to myself, oh, I'm resourcing here. I don't let myself watch a lot of sports, and so I'm going to watch the World Series, and I'm going to have a beer with that, or I'm going to let's get some pizza out, it's the game or whatever. And I can think that I'm resourcing myself, giving myself a break from being so focused, but my body and my sleep and my energy levels are going to actually show me whether that thing that I thought was resourcing was actually resourcing or whether it was coping. And I kind of like joke sometimes where when we go to the gas station to fill up our car, we're assuming we're going to have 300 to 400 miles before we have to go back to the gas station. So we don't fill up our gas tank and then drive out of the gas station and be like, and see our gas light on. That would be ridiculous. We'd have a hole in our gas tank. But when we think we're resourcing and we're coping, we go and we're resourcing, but we're actually coping. And we're like, God, I just had a great time. And the next day, God, why do I feel so exhausted? Because I was actually coping rather than filling up my tank. I don't have a hole in my tank. I just wasn't putting in octane that helped my system run better. And so I need to first experiment to see, are the things that I think that I'm doing to rest actually creating vitality? Because obviously video games, anything on screens is not resting. Anything on screens. I'm not even talking about like a really well done documentary. Screens is not rest. And there's so much data that we experience on the outside, constantly bombarded by data. And so for me, when I stop taking in external data, then all the internal data that I need to feel and process, the conversations I need to reflect on, the memories I need to reconcile from the past, the emotions I need to process, start to come up. So when I stop doing something, that's why a lot of people, when they start a meditation practice, like, I suck at meditating. No, it's actually working because all those thoughts are all the internal data you haven't been present to, that you've been flooding out through all the external data. So I find that the beginning of rest is to engage in something that has very little external data or very nourishing external data, like being out in a forest. I live in a forest, so it's easy for me, but being out in nature and not ingesting more and expecting that there's going to be unprocessed stuff that my system's going to be like, hey, dude, you've been focused so much on all this external data. Now that you're not engaging it, now here's some stuff that you need to process and face. And so I think getting acclimated to a less excitatory, stimulating experience is actually restful, because that nervous system is jacked. Even if I'm looking at a documentary about nature, all the flashing pictures and, if there's any ads or whatever, it's just kind of like the nervous system is so jacked and we're so used to it. So it's like, how do I downregulate, have less data? And when I have less data on the outside, expect my mind's going to chatter. And instead of thinking that's a problem, start to dialogue with it. Why do I have that thought? What's that part of me saying that thing? What's the deeper need underneath that thought? Do I need to be worrying about this thing? Can I draw a boundary with that part that's constantly planning? Just be like, no, we're going to be here and look at the sky. We're going to be here and we're going to breathe. We're going to not eat for 24 hours and let our digestion rest. But I'm hungry and I want some chips. I know you do, but we're going to rest, right? So it's like decreasing, subtracting the data helps the system actually rest. But everybody's got to find their pathway into it and what works for them.
No, absolutely. I love nature. We take, and a lot of what you said too, I've learned is intuitively already known in children. just watching my daughter. If we take Bruno out for a walk, that's our dog. It used to be a 10-minute walk. She wants to be outside for over an hour. Outside? That's what she'll outside. And then good luck getting her back inside because she wants to be in nature. But our kids intuitively know. I mean, my daughter, she'll put herself to sleep. She's a good sleeper, thank God. But you mentioned that the nervous system being jacked. We can tell, and we know when some people think they have unruly kids, bad kids. I know there's different attitudes and there's different temperaments for everyone. So I'm not saying this is general practice. I'm not a pediatrician by any regards, but I can tell when we're pushing the limits with our daughter. I can tell when we do something that's overstimulating and she gets a little irritable. It's because her nervous system is jacked up, and we need to have a day or two where we reset her schedule. We get her back home into her own bed, into her own room. Where I told you beforehand, before we hit record, I'm in the process of moving. And in the last few weeks, she sleeps well, but she's woken up in the middle of the night and she's been a little bit more irritable than normal. And thankfully, my wife and I are intuitive enough to be like, well, there's a lot of uncertainty around her right now. Her nursery, which had all the stars and the clouds hung up, is gone. And she still has her crib there, but her stuffed animals are gone, and she's going to this empty house that she's running around, and half of her stuff is there, half of her stuff is over here. So we have to be intuitive parents and understand and bring patience to the equation of she's not sure what's going on. We can't fully communicate with her that we're moving into a new space, so we need to make her feel safe and all these things that, from hearing you explain that, the difference between coping and resourcing is it's knowing what's filling our cup and what's draining us, and not to drain ourselves because it feels good, but going to fill our cup up so we can, in essence, move forward with what needs to be done. And sometimes that means addressing some hard truths, or addressing the elephant in the room, something you talk about doing in a fun and playful way. But it's important to have those difficult conversations before it becomes even bigger. So I would love for you to touch on that, because believe it or not, I found this to be the case for a lot of men, is we avoid certain conflicts. We avoid certain realities, right? We brush the small problems under the rug until they become too big to ignore. Earlier, you mentioned the rock bottom feel for guys who might ignore their health until it's too late, that check engine light until it's too late. So talk about addressing the elephant in the room, having those hard conversations before they become big problems that are almost too big to solve.